by Vicky Sokol-Evans. I'm out of breath because I just did my It's Go Time song. So Catherine 2023, Linda 2023, last year 2023. Yeah, like you play a role in this. You're just as important. Well, welcome to Future Ready Friday. It's the show that helps you master Microsoft 365 Copilot and build the skills employers need. I'm your host, Vicky Sokol-Evans, and today we're towards the end of an 8-part series. But if you're just now joining us and wonder, oh shoot, I'm behind, don't worry, it's okay. I am going to walk you through where we are in the program in the 8-part series, and I think this is probably the most important episode because I'm going to show you how to use AI as your thought partner, specifically Copilot as your thought partner. Hi, Melody. Good to see you. Always lovely to see you each week. Thank you for joining us. All right. So, let me walk through. I'm going to walk through where we are in the series. And if you missed an episode, that's okay. You can always come back to an episode. So here's our 8-part series, and we are here on episode 31, which is part 7 of the 8 parts, Copilot as your thought partner. And here's our journey so far. Let me go ahead. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. So episode 25, just similar to when you walk into a mall or into an airport and you're wanting to get to a gate or to the Apple store, wherever you're wanting to go. If you know where your destination is, we need to know where you are. So episode 25 identifies where you are in this process. And then episode 26, we use this skills assessment and to free up some time, because there's this theme that I'm hearing in the corporate world is I don't have time to learn this. So I want to free up some time for you so that you can focus on this very important tool, which is AI. And so that was episode 26. And then we turn our attention to AI, specifically Copilot, using the free AI chat that comes with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And this is your external intelligence. So anything similar to like a Google search, brainstorming, things like that. And then episode 28, we turned our attention to internal intelligence. When you have a paid version of Copilot, you're able to go to the work toggle and start using prompts to use the context of your work when you're interacting with Copilot and AI. Then we turned our attention to when you get a response from AI and you copy and paste that into Word, how do we handle the formatting? I need it to be on brand. So we then talked about branding our output and how to work with your brand colors and fonts in episode 29. Episode 30, we then went back to our Excel skills. So we took a little bit about things that we learned in episode 26 and now added an AI layer to that in episode 30. And now here we are in episode 31 using AI as our thought partner. And we're going from, I can move myself up. We are going from using AI, the tactical use of AI, to the strategic use of AI. So tactical use is using Copilot instead of using Google search, or using Copilot as a writing assistant. And now we're going to move to using AI as our thought partner. You are in the driver's seat and you're going to use Copilot as your thought partner. It's like having an employee dedicated to you, an employee who knows the context of your work. You have a paid license to Copilot. It has the context of the people that you meet, the conversations you've had, email, meetings, documents that you're in, using the behind the scenes engine of the Microsoft Graph. So it has all of this context. So now if we use AI as our thought partner, you're going to see it enhance you and amplify you. And all of this is coming from, and you're no stranger, if you've been on a part of the show, you're no stranger to my obsession, a true obsession with this book called The AI Driven Leader by Geoff Woods. And I urge you to pick up this book, listen to the Audible version, make sure you're checking out the podcast. Even if you aren't an executive, your executives are reading this book. I was just at a training yesterday here in Austin, and in that training, there was a stack of Geoff's books there on the table. So everyone who was in attendance picked up that book so that they can read it and truly leverage AI as a thought partner. So if your leaders are reading this book and they're becoming an AI-driven leader, then your goal is to become an AI-driven employee. And to address this, the biggest question I hear when I'm out on the road and training in corporate environments, will AI replace me? The other things that I hear is, I don't have time to learn new technology. Why isn't IT teaching it these shortcuts? Even basic tips and tricks, beyond just before even using AI, when I show tips and tricks, we still have a skills gap with fundamental skills as well as AI. So I'm taking the information from this book and I want to distill it for all employees. Whether you're an executive assistant who supports a leader who wants to be an AI-driven leader, I want to show you specific things, prompts you could use in Copilot so that you can better support your leader and their business objectives and the organizational objectives. So here are the key takeaways from that book, from an employee's perspective. Geoff Woods is doing a fantastic job training leaders and inspiring leaders. And I see my opportunity to train employees how to support the leaders who are wanting to become AI-driven leaders and building AI-driven companies or AI-powered companies. And this is how you fit in. So here are my key takeaways from an employee perspective from Geoff's book. Number one, AI is your career accelerator. So you're going to use AI to free up those repetitive manual tasks so that you can focus on the high impact work so that you can become indispensable. That's the goal. So you're flipping the narrative from, will AI replace me, or to, how can AI make me indispensable to my company? We're going to use Geoff's CRIT prompting framework as your superpower. So CRIT stands for context, role, interview, and task. We'll have plenty of examples today. Well, let me make this bigger for you. You'll have plenty of examples today of me using CRIT from an executive assistant's perspective. The third thing is a reminder to focus on the 80-20 rule, that we want to automate or free up the 80% of low impact work so that we can focus on the 20% that drives real impact and fulfillment. And we've been talking about this in the previous episodes. Now, the other two that I would add that's not part of this book, but it is influenced by James Clear's Atomic Habits, and I talk about this a lot in these episodes, is you want to come from an identity perspective. So for instance, in Geoff's book, he talks about the AI-driven leaders. That's the identity of the leader. I want you to think of yourself as an AI-driven employee, or a future-ready employee, or a tech-savvy employee. Even if you don't feel that way now, I want you to adopt that identity. I want to be an AI-driven employee. I want to be a tech-savvy employee. Whatever it is, whatever that identity is, I want you to make that your North Star. And then it could feel overwhelming. Even looking at this 8-part series, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm on part 7. I haven't even looked at episodes 1, the parts 1 through 6 yet. I feel behind already. It's okay. The goal is just to get 1% better every day. I don't want you to cram. You're not cramming for an exam. We just want to get better every single week, or 1% better every single day. So we're going to start small and then we're going to scale. Where do you want to be this time next year? Maybe you want to be that AI-driven employee. I want to be using CRIT prompting in my day-to-day. I want to be using AI strategically, not just tactical reasons. So I want to step back. This is one of my most popular slides that people take photos of when I'm teaching in person. I can't tell if you take a screenshot of this when you're online with me, but I do know what people are taking pictures of. So this slide, I want to remind everyone that's watching the Microsoft stack, the Microsoft ecosystem, and where Copilot fits in here. So obviously, we start with our core application. So when, let's say you're starting a business, you're going to start a small business, and you think, okay, I need the core applications, and people typically invest in Outlook, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. If you're a Google shop, you're probably not even watching this episode. But this is for those people who are used to Outlook, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. You go and you need these applications. So then you go and get the Microsoft 365 subscription. And with that subscription, depending on the license that you get file storage in OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint. So you imagine maybe I have a friend who's a defense attorney. She's starting her own firm. She has plans to expand, to have a legal assistant and a paralegal to work with her. So her vision is expansion. So she purchases Microsoft 365. She gets OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint. She starts saving team-related files in Teams. And then now a new business would not be worried about network drives, because network drives is a legacy thing, legacy tool where companies prior to Microsoft 365 used to work in network drives. So don't worry about those, but some of you working in corporations and companies do have network drives, and I'm going to address that in just a second. With your Microsoft 365 license, obviously you get Teams, so you get Teams meetings, so you get virtual meeting capabilities and workspaces. We also have Microsoft To Do, which is a task management app. We get Planner, which is a project manager app. Bookings, which is a calendar booking app where people can, external people can book meetings with you, or internal. Microsoft Forms, and then so many more applications. Power Automate, OneNote, Loop, a lot of applications that come with your subscription to Microsoft 365. Now, what people tend to do, this is what I'm seeing in many of my clients, is they also have things outside of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and I'm going to show you the implications of that. So sometimes people, I've had a law firm that they have Microsoft 365, but for some reason they've chosen Dropbox for their files instead of OneDrive. I've had a firm choose Box instead of OneDrive. Google Drive, so people might prefer Zoom versus team meetings. They might have Slack instead of Teams. Maybe they purchased Monday.com or Trello because they didn't know these apps existed within their license. Calendly, that's something I had. My team and I had probably for the last 5 years. I just got rid of it because now I'm using Bookings. Just got rid of Typeforms because I'm using Microsoft Forms. All of this is free. SurveyMonkey, and so on. And then we have a lot of companies, small businesses, major companies, major corporations using ChatGPT instead of Copilot, or maybe they're using Claude. Now, January 15th of 2025, Microsoft changed the name of Microsoft 365 to Microsoft 365 Copilot, regardless if you had a paid subscription to Copilot. And so just because you got Outlook, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, you get, I'm going to move network drives out here, you get this free web chat. So with these 4 applications, your company has chosen to invest in these applications. You get all of this with your Microsoft 365 subscription, depending on the license that you chose. And so this right here, this web chat, we've talked about this in a previous episode. It's just like ChatGPT. It's a backend, same LLM, because Microsoft owns a stake in OpenAI. So the backend is the LLM. And it's grounded. Think of this as external intelligence. So it doesn't have access to your internal files because it's just the free version of Copilot. Now, if you, this is what I call gray work. So anything outside of the Microsoft ecosystem requires copying and pasting between your internal apps, everything that's in the ecosystem, and external. So the next thing is a Copilot license. So once you get that Copilot license, you then have internal intelligence. You have the work chat, which means that any conversations, they're grounded in the context of your work, who you interact with, meetings, your calendar, and so on. You have Copilot within the Microsoft applications, you have access to these agents. So when I start talking about, I'm going to show you what a CRIT prompting looks like. When you're prompting, the way I'm about to show you how to prompt based on Geoff Woods framework, what you want to consider is whether you want to use the web chat or work chat. And the question is, do I want Copilot to leverage internal intelligence, the people I interact with, the files that I have? If so, I'm going to make sure I use work chat for this prompt. If I don't want it to use any internal intelligence at all, then I would use the web chat. And that's that toggle at the very top. So I'm not going to dive deep into that. We're not going to actually go into Copilot, but I am going to now show you the CRIT prompting so that you can take take Copilot to a whole new level. So this is the CRIT framework, and you're going to think of your prompts, and you're actually going to frame your prompts this way, or structure your prompts this way. You're going to give Copilot context. You're going to give Copilot a role, and then you're going to ask Copilot to interview you. And then at the end, what is the output? Give Copilot a task. So I'm going to use an executive assistant as an example for my 4 examples that I have. And so the first, I'm going to go from very simple prompt that has high impact to a very strategic prompt. So here's one. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it. So, and Geoff does this on his podcast. He actually writes out the word context, role, interview, and task. So you're welcome to do that. Use natural language when you're giving it context. If you could use a microphone, that's even better, because then you're using your voice. And the more Copilot has your voice, the better. So I'm an executive assistant. I manage a busy executive's calendar and spend hours scheduling meetings manually. We have recurring meetings, approval processes, and scheduling conflicts, a lot of moving parts. And I want to be sure I'm using all my tools. I want to make sure I'm using them correctly and using the calendar management best practices for my industry and role. You are a Microsoft 365 automation expert who knows Outlook, Teams, and Power Automate, or you could just say who knows the full Microsoft stack. You know exactly what tools I have access to. I always keep this one the same. So I just say, interview me 1 question at a time, 3 questions max to get greater context. The output is a step-by-step plan to automate meeting requests and confirmations using Outlook and Power Automate. I actually wouldn't use like specific things because you're narrowing the focus. I would just say using meeting requests and confirmations, and to make this process more seamless. What will happen is once you send that, then Copilot is going to ask you 1 question at a time, because you can't predict what information it needs. So you can try that. I'm going to go to the next prompt, and what's amazing about this is when it asks a question, it asks you 1 at a time, and then it's adding your response to the context. So it might even switch out the second question based on what you answered the first time. The next one is automating travel request. So I think this one is, let's see, cool. Okay, so the context is, now you can see that I have proper case because I copied this from a Word. I have these prompts in a Word document, and I don't want you to care about punctuation, spelling, or anything like that. I just want you to talk into the mic or just type, like freeform type. Employees currently email managers for travel approval, and I want to automate this process. I probably would give it more context, like what is not working, what's working, what is time consuming, what's causing mistakes. You are a Microsoft 365 automation expert who knows, and I would just say all of the applications that come with Microsoft 365. I wouldn't limit it to just these applications, because then it might just tailor it based on what you added. Interview me 1 question at a time, 3 questions max to get greater context. Generate a step-by-step instructions to create I would say, an intake form, connect it to SharePoint, and build an approval workflow with Power Automate. The reason why I did this one is because yesterday in class, one of the employees that came up to me after class and said, hey, I've got this Word document that we use for an approval process. I don't want it to be a Word document. I want it to be an online form that then could flow into SharePoint and then start the approval process. So that would require Power Automate, but he didn't know about Power Automate. So obviously you don't know what tools you have. You don't know what you don't know. So you can be as generic as possible in your prompts. It was using a lot of the specific apps because it knows me as the trainer, so I should know Power Automate. Here's one that is kind of self-serving for me is I want to use CRIT to create a Future Ready Friday learning plan. So the context is I'm a fan of Future Ready Friday, but I can't always watch live. I want a learning plan to stay up to date without feeling overwhelmed, and I want my team to leverage this free training to get 1% better every day. We want to build the identity of a future-ready employee, tech-savvy employee, and AI-driven employee. You are a learning and development strategist who knows how to design simple, sustainable learning plans for busy professionals. You can even say, we only have 30 minutes a week to dedicate to this learning plan. You can put some constraints around it. Interview me 1 question at a time, 3 questions max to get greater context. The task is to create a personalized learning plan with weekly actions, accountability tips, and ways to share progress with my team. So you might say if you want to take on this role as the team lead, so if you are attending each week, you're like, I want to drive this, I want to scale this training across my team or across the organization. I want to lead lunch and learns using these Future Ready Friday episodes. You can be more specific about what your role is, or you can even say, I really want this learning plan for myself. I don't really, it's up to other employees to create their own learning plan, but let me try it out for myself. So just use your natural language and whatever parameters you want. And then that interview, when it interviews you, it's going to dive deeper into what you're looking for. Here's one for performance review. So this could apply to anybody. And I have an upcoming performance review. And you could probably say I have an upcoming performance review in a month and want to prepare effectively. I also want to set a big audacious goal for next year that aligns with my role and company objectives. You could even say, especially if you're an executive assistant, aligns with my role and my leader's business objectives and company objectives. So you can add that extra layer in there. The role, Copilot's role is you are an executive coach who specializes in career growth and strategic goal setting. You also, part of the role too is you could use authors. You could use, you are an executive coach and the author of Atomic Habits or whatever. You can put your favorite authors in here so that it's taking, it's going to use the intelligence of that author, that book, those learnings, and incorporate it into your prompt and the response. I'm going to skip over the interviews, the same question, and task, draft a performance review prep guide, and outline 3 bold, measurable goals for next year with action steps. Perhaps you need help creating your OKR, objectives and key results. And the last one I have is the icing on the cake. If you can align your work, so if you think about that, the fear-based question, like, will AI replace me? If you can align your work with business objectives, how can AI replace you? It's going to make you indispensable if you're helping making a huge impact on the organization when you align with your work with business objectives. I want to ensure my priorities as an EA align with both the organization's strategic objectives and my leader's top goals for the quarter. or you could say for the year. You are a strategic operations advisor. You might even say you are the top strategic operations advisor, or you are world-class operations advisor who understands executive alignment and OKRs, objectives and key results. We know about the interview question. Task is to generate a weekly action plan that connects my EA task to those objectives, including metrics to track impact. You can even ask it to create a dashboard. You can include, if you happen to have the leader's business objectives and the organization's strategic objectives in a document. Perhaps there was a town hall, or maybe there's a website, SharePoint site that has the company objectives on there. What you can do is, when you're prompting, I think in a previous episode, we talked about the slash command. If you type slash and then type, if you happen to know the name of the file, or perhaps if you click on other, you can access SharePoint site. So maybe there's a site, a team site, an intranet site that has the company business objectives. So you can reference specific documents or resources so that Copilot has that intelligence. And that's within the work chat. It would have to know, have that internal intelligence using work chat. So those are my suggestions with using CRIT prompting. Obviously, you can take this and run with it, but if you add Geoff's podcast, next step, and I've said this in previous episodes, and I got this from Geoff from his podcast, is I have a Post-it here on my laptop, and I've gone through several because it stops being sticky after a while. Put a Post-it and say, how can Copilot help me with this? If you want, put the word CRIT underneath that as well, because you can have tactical prompts and strategic prompts. CRIT is going to be the more strategic prompt. And it's probably going to take us a year of doing this to have this like an automatic habit of going directly to AI to help you with this. You're still in the driver's seat. So it's taking you from version none to version 1. You take it from version 1 to version done. That's your goal. Get this book. Go read this book. Listen to the podcast. I'm going to say that it will be so repetitive. A couple of upcoming events. Next episode is our final episode in the 8-part series. And it's about retention strategies, looking at what we covered in the 8-part series and how do we accelerate our skills, our skill building based on what we've learned so far. And this will get us perfectly into the new year, into 2026, and giving you a strategy so you can continue attending the Future Ready Friday episodes. I can't wait to share with you what I have planned for 2026. And a reminder, speaking of 2026, Bonnie Lowe Craman and I teach a Be the Ultimate Assistant workshop. It's a 3-day workshop. I have a full day of tech training on day 2. And this is our final year, 15th and final year of delivering public workshops. We still have corporate workshops, but this will be our final year with our public ones. So hopefully you can join us there. So let me go ahead and see if we got any questions. Hello, everybody. So someone says they've been waiting from, first of all, to say hi to Melody. She's always here, Future Ready Friday. I appreciate you showing up every single week. Thank you. And we've got a LinkedIn user says, yeah, I've been waiting for this episode for a while. Thank you, LinkedIn user. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. Thanks for attending today. And Teresa says, I ordered the book for myself, my daughter, my son-in-law, my husband is listening to the audiobook. I love it. Nice. I love that. I know Geoff Woods, so I will make sure that he hears that. He'll be happy to hear that. And our last one is Vicki. Hi, Maggie. Good to see you. You're so sweet. Thanks for loving me. I love you back. And so Maggie has recently discovered Researcher and Copilot, and it's hot, hot, hot. That's amazing. So Researcher and Copilot, if you just do it so when you are in a prompt, I'll just show myself. When you're in a prompt in Copilot, just mention Researcher, just put the @ symbol and type Researcher, and allows you to do a deep dive research on any topic. So if you're looking for market research, let's say I'm looking for research on executive assistants in the United States. What's their gender? What industries they're in? How many assistants do we have in the United States alone? Then I would use researcher for that particular prompt. And I haven't used researcher with a CRIT prompt, so that might be interesting to use that. So awesome. So, and Maggie's been to B2A, Be the Ultimate Assistant workshop several times, and man, I remember the first time you joined us and you did a 2-minute lesson on LinkedIn, and you have taken your LinkedIn profile like you're like the master of LinkedIn. So I really appreciate you, and congratulations on your new role, Maggie. All right, I don't see any questions. So that is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me on Future Ready Friday. If you found this helpful, please share it with your team and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Visit futurereadyfriday.com for resources and replays. I'm your host, Vicki Sokol-Evans, and I'll see you next time as we continue building the skills employers need. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.